Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith along with Ivan Ozerets.
Hello.
Coming to you from Wintergreen, Virginia. Beautiful place up in the mountains. Following the U.S. Open, episode 161. Before we talk a little about the U.S. Open, let's talk a little bit about fundraising. One comes to my mind is thank you for your support. What do you have to say, sir?
Yeah, thank you for your support. We started the campaign to join what we call a roster of people that are willing to donate and help out. $10 a month is what we're asking. Don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think we're up to around 20 people that are signed up for the roster, which is
20.
great. Thank you.
20 is better than 19.
That's true.
With aspirations to become a tennis teaching organization. Maybe the smallest, but aspire to be the best. With fundraising, we need to try to do what we're doing, but do it better. I think of Andy Fitzell, editor. It takes a lot of time to do things right. A writer. But what we'd really like to have is the people that we train to teach tennis over the years be recruiters. We just want to reach more people. We feel like what we're sharing is of value, and it's a lot of homework. It's carrying the torch of many, many proven tennis teachers from the past. Any other thoughts on fundraising?
Not that comes to mind. No, just thank you for the people that have donated. You know, the first few, and hopefully more to come.
Okay, let's go to the U.S. Open broadcasting. There's a podcast and a broadcast. That's your baby. You organize that. It was suggested many years ago, by Brian Wilson, not Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, but Brian Wilson of Illinois Tennis. Called me up out of the blue and said that I should commentate during the matches. Mm-hmm. I know that you sat in on many matches where I commentate on the commentating, but you put it together. To me, it's we reached, I think you said 40 plus the first day and 70 plus the second time. We did the women's final and the men's final. I remember certainly sitting in on many PTR in this country, Professional Tennis Registry, PTR, United States Professional Tennis Association, USPTA, sitting in as a student or conducting the lecture, and to reach 40 people, hopefully, that was of some value. What are your thoughts on the broadcast?
Great. I think it's cool. You said it was my baby. We were sitting watching hockey actually one day, and before you mentioned something about commentating, and then we were watching hockey during the playoffs, and we both looked at each other. It's like, these guys commentate way better, and they could actually probably do a better job commentating tennis matches than the commentators we have now. And yeah, so with the commentary, for those that don't know, on the website, there's just a page like any other page. You just go to commentary. It says when Steve's going to be live next. We did it for the U.S. Open women's final, U.S. Open men's final, and there's a countdown when we're going to do it next. We haven't decided when we're going to do it next, but it seems positive. We've had good feedback. We've also recorded it, and so soon, it's not up yet, but soon we'll have the recordings up on the same page, on the commentary page of the website. You can go back, sync it up if you just want to listen to it, or you can sync it up to your own video at home, the replay of the final. So hopefully that provides value for people.
I certainly got some feedback. A couple of people reached out and said I should have stats handed to me. That's actually something that we did as a group of dedicated tennis teachers back in the 80s for Bill Jacobson, who's the founder of CompuTennis, is several pro tournaments. We would hand stats to the people speaking. I think that would be good. Also, I was told to announce the score because some people just listen to the commentary without watching.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. You told me that. Whoa.
I remember my son Connor, I was playing on the tour and there's matches. Obviously, it wasn't the ATP, but say he was playing Challenger. And this is several years ago, you could just listen to the match. You couldn't. It was just basically tennis radio, and we would go pretty much like this. The same player, not to mention the player's name, but one of his doubles partners, and so misses a backhand volley, and so misses a backhand volley. It's really interesting to just hear it if you don't actually see it. It's like listening for me growing up, listening to a hockey game. With that, when I used to train tennis teachers formally in a college setting, you could go right up to the TV and darken the picture. And we would listen to, say, someone like Braden, just listen to him teach. Or then what we would do is bring the picture back up and turn the volume down. So you could just watch him teach, watch the demos. And it's very interesting. With commentators, I certainly enjoy listening to the tidbits, the insights. I don't think there's enough learning. I don't think that the American public, I certainly have watched televised matches in other countries, but I don't think the American public is really being educated enough about the nuts and bolts, the X's and O's of tennis. Mm-hmm. What else on the broadcasting? Anything?
Broadcasting? No, just some information. We couldn't do it where, we have a video of you watching it and talking kind of like a podcast because of rights. It's the ESPN, I think, owns the broadcast for the majors, and we can't show that on the website. And it was risky because we still wanted to hear what the commentators were saying. So Steve can comment on the commentators, but we had to make it quiet so you can't hear it too much because we don't want to run into issues. But hopefully that's all good.
With commentating on matches, I do think way too much there's the off factor. The pros are great. Take your hat off to the pros. I mean, to just play in one ATP, one WTA match is quite an accomplishment. So don't want to come across as the armchair quarterback, but I do think in some ways there's a brain drain. There's a lack of information. I shouldn't say I think. I know there's a lack of information every level of tennis, from the grassroots, parks and rec, clubs, academies, high schools, colleges. That doesn't mean there's not great people, but there's just a lack of tennis information. And I think I know some of the information that we're sharing, it's like a treasure, and it certainly could become a lost treasure.
Yeah, I remember one of the podcasts you did a while ago with Ricardo Acioli. You guys talked about commentary came up, and he expressed his hatred for American commentary. He was adamant about it. He's very lively, and I love being part of that podcast behind the camera, of course. But it was just I had to listen to everything. He's such a character, but he commentated in Spanish, I believe. Back when, I don't remember when, but I remember he said that he did commentate and he didn't like the commentary because it was very flimsy, it was very fluffy, and it wasn't very concrete, like you said. No nuts and bolts, no information.
Yeah, Ricardo, I mean, he could do it in Spanish. He's trilingual, but he's from Brazil, so maybe it was in Portuguese. With Raven Clausen, I spoke to quite a bit during the fortnight. He's still in the States for a couple more days. When he was a non-playing member, he was on the Davis Cup team, but not playing. He did quite a bit of TV. He's somebody who's played tennis at a very respectable level. I think getting to a Wimbledon final, Australian Open final in doubles, that's respectable.
Yeah.
But he's somebody who I would say understands the nuts and bolts. I was asking him about the pension. I remember one time telling him about the pension. Certainly he was concerned. I don't know enough about it, but he was telling me that you can't collect your pension until you turn 50. I believe that's right. And it lasts for 20 years. Last time I asked him, it was $55,000 roughly a year. You convert that to South African rand, that's quite a bit of money. but I said, I think you need to be interested in a different set of numbers. Off the top of my head, I believe it's changed, but if you're not 5 consecutive years, but 5 years if you're in the top 100 in the world, and then doubles, it's 5, not consecutive years, but 5 years if you're top 50. That's where you can get a pension.
It's tough. Yeah.
And I understand that Roger Federer gets the same amount as everybody else. I know that one time he had a contract for that was renegotiated. I believe it was $1 million a year with Wilson. I was told that Nastase a long time ago with Adidas said, "I'll just take $350,000 a year for life." That was a pretty smart move.
Yeah, at the U.S. Open, the ESPN commentators, there was Chris Eubanks, and he's looking all sharp. And I love Eubanks. The way he talks is very eloquent. But, he was playing challengers not too long ago. He got to the quarters of Wimbledon, I believe, remind me, yeah. And now they're inviting him to the booth to commentate, to talk about stuff. And I feel like it's more about the image than the information. And it's sad from one point of view where they're not educating the youth, especially in America, since it's the U.S. Open. Nothing against Chris Eubanks, but it's tough.
Yeah, growing up in hockey years ago, a gentleman by the name of Howie Meeker. There's only the intermission between the first and second period, and the second and third periods, and Chalk Talk. Here at Wintergreen, we're getting organized. We haven't been here quite 2 months, but we will have 5 different places where we can sit down with players, where there's a TV, a whiteboard, and let's have a Chalk Talk. And you can actually go through most tennis clubs, tennis facilities, and there's no Chalk Talk. There's no, okay, let's sit down and get the clipboard out, take some notes. That's always amazing to me, because in other sports, you just think about, like, say, American football. All right, in here, everybody sit down. I'm going to break down film. With numbers, here's an interesting number from the U.S. Open. I believe this is accurate. I have to have our fact checker get on it. Mixed doubles, the winning team split 180 grand. And the winner of the singles, men and women, 50 years of equal pay, $3 million. I think that there should be more money in mixed. Those, and they have to split that. So I think it was 90,000 each for the winning team, 45,000 for the losing team. That's
almost as much as losing the first round of singles. That's amazing.
With, and also too, the commissioner, or who's leading the way, don't think mix should be no ad in a 10-point tiebreaker. Anytime you shorten the score, it's a greater chance of upset.
Yeah, and it's less exciting. Would you rather watch a potential 5-set, 5.5 hour, 6-hour match between, 2 players that have, all the covers are about them. You look at any picture about the US Open, it's about them, or, at best 2 of 3, 10-point tiebreaker, no ad. And I think they're just going down a different path, which is sad.
Well, we do get into opinion. The Laver Cup, it seems that scoring system, day 1, day 2, day 3, how they've changed, how they set the points up. It's made great theater. I think the Laver Cup has been very successful, and a lot of it has to do with the shortening of the scoring system. But yeah, doubles is doubles, and if they're going to do it in women's doubles and men's doubles and mixed doubles, I think should just be played the same way. Principle. With arguably the 5-set match, okay, maybe doubles is best of 3, but at least have it be regular scoring and not have it be a 10-point tiebreaker. And I think it's unfortunate that they're doing that throughout juniors. Not throughout the world, but here in the U.S. with Austin Krajicek. I was pulling for Austin. Not only pulling for Austin, but Jessica Pegula. She's an upstate New York kid, Buffalo, New York. Hats off to her. She played 3 events. Years ago, it seemed like everybody played 3 events. And we could get into what are the benefits of playing doubles. I know that, unfortunately, too, that all that pounding on hard courts and the rackets, the ball is traveling faster. So it does take a greater toll on the body. So there's always two sides to the coin, but um, juniors are definitely influenced by that. The late Bobby Curtis at one time in Florida, 1 weekend a month was designated doubles tournaments only, and people didn't play. So he fought for doubles, but his efforts fell short, not because of what he did, but because people said, "Well, we just won't play that weekend." It's really sad that men's open doubles. Well, one thought on the mix. So I did say on our broadcast that some people might say we should sit in section F and shut up and eat popcorn, but Jeff Kotsier was coaching the other team, so we have these connections. Um, they run pretty deep, and Jeff was someone who lived with us when he was a young kid, and then someone who spent 7 years with us. Craig Tiley had a great influence with Jeff Kotsier, and he took the Colombian team. He's been with him for a long time, where they have won majors and been number one. But going to the men's doubles, hats off to Rajiv Ram.
Yeah.
39 years old.
3 in a row.
And his doubles partner, I think, like the backstory, I think it was a year and a half. Salisbury I couldn't play for a year and a half when he was younger because of medical reasons. I was told that when he played college tennis at the University of Memphis, he served and volleyed every ball. His college coach, Paul Goebel, he's been hired as a director of tennis, director of player development, perhaps, for the nonprofit Tennis Memphis. Great guy. But I've been told by a couple key people within that organization that he has embraced the GreatBase. He sees how young kids are hitting the ball, and he's in. It makes
That's
sense.
good.
It makes sense
That's
to
good.
him. It's always good to have reports like that. But Rajiv Ram, 39 years old. Mike Costa, another Illinois player, didn't play when Rajiv Ram played. He was a senior and graduated. Then Ram came in as a freshman. And Mike Costa, the comedian, I think people in tennis have seen him on the Tennis Channel. Fuzzy Yellow Balls, not Fuzzy Yellow Balls, but whatever he's doing, it's fun and it's yellow. He's in a yellow room, and with that, Rajiv Ram, he's so laid back, he's so chilled, he yawns in between volleys. But actually, the doubles, they played 3 times in a row. I mean, Dojic, who played with Krajicek, I watched that match, and Dojic, what a great athlete. I think if you roll a soccer ball out on the court, he's the best of that group. But obviously, he's won majors and great doubles player. But the other 3, I mean, that's a lesson for doubles. With Rajiv Ram is from Carmel, Indiana. Certainly, I have been around his tennis. I never coached him for a second, but I actually fed balls to him when he was 14 years old at the 14 Nationals. I was coaching a kid by the name of Blake Wilmarth, who went to Colgate. And he was ranked 1 in the Midwest. Ram wasn't ranked 1 because he, even though he's from Indiana, he wasn't playing enough tournaments to be ranked, enough USTA sectional tournaments, however it goes. And it's forever changing how people are ranked. But he won that tournament. And I know the nickname he has is Sampras. He just watched Sampras, but Rompras. The way he serves, the way he plays. Smart guy. I've always said that, who copied Sampras? The last time he played a match, he came to net 140 times and 104 times in one match. And people weren't picking up on that. So he played against Krajicek. I know they won a tournament, I believe it was in Moscow, where they won a title together, but now they're playing Davis Cup together. So, someone's got to step up and take place for the Bryans. It's great to know that they have some servant volleyers, because there was a Davis Cup match not too long ago where I believe Rajiv was number 1 in the world, and they didn't put him on the team.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? Who makes those decisions?
I think that was Marty Fish.
Marty is no longer the captain. Maybe that was the person who made that decision. The U.S. Open is, it's amazing how people are so busy during the U.S. Open. I feel like during majors, the tennis world shuts down. One time I made the mistake of, okay, let's have a get together, little coaches get together in New York during the Open. And it doesn't work. I know the Tennis Teachers Conference was very successful, but a smaller group and who's in the weeks in, not I should say days into the tournament. The Teachers Conference was on the front side. Certainly some great tennis to watch on the front side, even just not necessarily the qualities, but even the practice sessions. But people are staying late. People are staying all over the city or outside of the city. It's very difficult to get people together. But I think also too is that you can watch so much tennis during the Open is that when it's over, you have withdrawals a little bit. Like, oh, what am I going to do today?
Yeah.
It's too bad we don't have a major being played every day. With, let's talk a little bit about stats. I have to throw this in. Wayne Gretzky, the great hockey player. Stats are for losers. With Gretzky said they were talking about goalies, and I want to know I don't want to know the save percentage. I want to know how many times they've won playoff games or how many times they won the Stanley Cup. So yeah, you can overdo stats. Okay, let's go with stats. Let's go with. I guess I'll back up. Rajiv Ram. I was in Indiana to meet Jeremy Wertzman, the coach at Indiana. People could watch our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied, and a young 11-year-old Jeremy Wertzman's hitting a slice backhand east and west and a backhand volley east and west. And he went on and was ranked number 1 in the NCAA. So I met him. He came up from Bloomington, I believe that's right, Bloomington, Indiana. And so we were at the Smith Academy, Brian Smith, his father, and there's this big Lincoln, and two tennis players are pushing it. And a little old lady stops and says, hey guys, I've got a AAA card. I could help you out. And the kids pushing the car said, oh, thank you, but this is Tennis Fitness. I mean, so one time I was told they used a Home Depot, an abandoned Home Depot, and kids were taking lessons like at 4 a.m. So that's where he started his tennis. I know that we have some guests that we've mentioned that we're going to have during the U.S. Open. Again, so busy is that it's difficult to ask someone, well, let's not watch the U.S. Open and do a podcast. So we'll get back on track with some guests starting next week. I know Raven Clausen, we're scheduled to do one with Raven. We've done one with him before, but that certainly would be fun. And there's others that are on our list. We appreciate, I've asked so many people to be on the podcast, and it's amazing. A lot of people said, yeah, I'll do it. It's just a matter of getting it organized. Mm-hmm. Okay, with stats, let's go with the women's match. Coco Gauff, the champion. What an athlete. I think Brad Gilbert fired her up in her victory speech where she said, my critics have added fuel to the fire. I do know, myself included, a lot of people have been saying, okay, on the forehand side. Mm-hmm. But mom and dad, take your kids to the track, go find some stairs, go find some hills, go to the gym.
Yeah, she's fit.
Yeah, I'd love to see her play basketball. I know her dad was a basketball player. I'm sure she's good. I mean, and also playing basketball. It's like, yeah, it's fun to have a hoop, but just get out there, just do one-on-one drills, dribbling a basketball. Just the movement to stay nose to nose. How's it go? Is you're going to be so close to them, you're going to know what flavor gum they're chewing. You're not going to give them any space. How many points were played? Let me ask a question. How many points were played in the women's match?
Total points. We have 157.
157. So Coco Gauff, how many times was she at the net?
She was at the net a total of 10 times.
10 times. With your calculator, with your college education, what percentage of the points is that?
Get you
The young man is pushing some buttons.
6.36%.
6.3%. She's holding a trophy, $3 million. I can't question the winner, but young people watching at home, if you could turn the clock back, Coco Gauff, I think you could certainly argue that that's not a very high percentage. But I'm going to guess what percentage of the 6.3%, 6.3% time to the net, what percentage did she win?
Let's do the math.
So she came in 10 times. How many did she win? I don't think you have
She
to
won 7 of them, 7 out of
so,
10.
Yeah, maybe you could skip doing the math on that one.
Okay.
She won 70% of the points.
70% of the 6.36, yeah.
70%. Roger Federer loses first time to Nadal. I believe these numbers are accurate. Came in 17%, won 73%. So from section F with the popcorn, I think that he could increase the amount of times he came to the net and decrease the amount of points that he won. And I think what you have to do when you make a comment like that is say, what has Roger said? We started using tennis analytics in 2017. I was right. My dad said I was too chicken on the backhand. Hit the backhand. And they did change the grass on Roger. It'd be interesting to speculate if they didn't change the grass, making it slower, who would have the most majors or how tennis would be played. Now they're playing the same way on all 4 surfaces. They're all 4 majors, I should say. It's not four different surfaces anymore. It was Rubico, the Australian, the rubber ice surface they had. There was the French on clay, the English on grass, and the American on the plexi-pave, the hard court. How about her opponent, Sabalenka? I like just even saying that.
Sabalenka. She came in 21 net points 21 times.
The entire match. That's not the first set. The whole match.
21 times.
So 21 out of 157. The pocket calculator. Now the telephone's a calculator. The price went way down. When Bill Jacobson founded CompuTennis, the price never went down. It was $3,500, but the price never went down because so few people bought it. I believe he sold less than 200 units. I know that he gave 2 away to very highly regarded coaches who never even turned it on.
I got the number.
Yes, sir.
13.37%.
So she came in 13% of the time. And what was her winning percentage?
She came in 21 times, won 13 of them, 62%.
62%. So still, if you come in and you win 2 out of 3, we always tell people 4 out of 6, 8 out of 12, aggressive air margin. That comes from Jacobson. You win 6-0, 6-0. But to put pressure on the players, take time and space away. If you win points in 3 ways, plus is a winner, minus is an unforced error, minus F a forced error. You can make a boatload of errors, but if you could make them where you're forcing, pressuring someone to miss, I think when you sit and watch a match, are they playing an approach out with the idea that they're going to volley? Let's go with a few more things. Let's turn to the men's match. Well, actually, let's stay with unforced errors on that for a minute. I looked at one stat I thought that Coco made more errors, but you had down that she made 19, right?
Let's see, unforced errors. Okay, of course it depends on who's charting it, but here it says total unforced errors 19 for Goff and it says 46 for Sabalenka.
Now with that, with that printout, I looked at that, as I said briefly, where many times you'll just see the winner to error ratio. So it's winner an unforced error. They don't really put down what's forcing.
Forced, yeah.
So of the 19, how many were forehands? Does it have that? Doesn't.
Let me double check. One thing I wanted to mention with these stats were taken off straight from the US Open website. If we get more organized, we can have people in the room with you when you're commentating so they can chart it, and then they can give you those stats. And, again, it's biased because it depends, especially on unforced errors. What's an unforced error?
Well, charting, one of our pillars, Jim Burdick, he charted himself. I actually could chart and commentate at the same time. But yeah, it's, as you mentioned, what's the charter A, charter B. Tom says it's a unforced error, and Bill says it's not. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's very interesting. How many times do they miss wide? How many times do they miss in the net? How many times do they miss long?
Yeah, I don't have where they hit, but they do provide stats for unforced errors, forehand or backhand, and really all the shots: approach shot, drop shot. So, for example, Sabalenka, 26 forehand unforced errors and 10 backhand unforced errors, and 1 backhand drop shot error, 1 forehand approach shot error. So there's some interesting stats here.
I do think that with junior tennis players, keep your ego in check and criticizing the pros. They're the ones that have worked so hard. They're the ones that are out there. But say in football, fumble. With Coco Gauff at 19 and Sabalenka at 46, I don't think you could say that was 19 fumbles. In a football game, maybe there's 2 or 3 fumbles, but whatever number it is, an interception would be another. A turnover, you turn the ball over, and now you're not in position to score, but the other person is. In tennis, you can score on every point. But yeah, Jim Burdick, put your brains down. Okay, what's really happening out there? And that's where, with parents listening, how your child plays when they're 10, that's pretty much how they're going to play when they're 11, and you keep going forward, and that's pretty much how they're going to play. So it's very important early on to de-emphasize winning, emphasize playing an all-court game, reward people for going forward and being in that point-ending situation. With the number of serve and volleys, I don't believe there was 1 point in the women's match where it was a serve and volley. I don't believe there was 1 point where someone took a second serve and came in. So, again, hats off to these 2 gals. I mean, I think you have to look at it and say, well, the physicality and then also the mental part. Okay, they're athletes. Athlete and a tennis player. And, I think with, say, Coco Gauff, she's holding the trophy. She's 3 in the world. Again, great. But I know that you speak Russian a little better than I do. How do you pronounce Rybakina's name?
That was very good, yeah. Yelena Rybakina.
Say that one more time.
Yelena Rybakina.
That's so good you can say it a third time.
Yelena Rybakina.
Yeah, pretty good. So,
you say it well, though. You say it well.
Yeah, that was luck. Can you imagine taking Coco Gauff's mobility, the 3 M's, mind, mobility, and mechanics. You take her mobility, and then you give it to Rybakina. I mean, it's like, wow. But again, it's not a matter of, we're not coming across where, one needs to totally change their game, revamp their game. Let's go to the men. Just talk about the same points with net appearances and unforced errors.
All right. Well, net appearances, 44 for Djokovic, 22 for Medvedev.
Okay, but we had say it again. So you have how many for the?
For Djokovic, he came to the net 44 times. Medvedev came 22.
Okay, so he came in twice as much. And that also, too, is that does it count when someone's playing an approach shot and they hit a winner? Do they call that? Or is it a net appearance if they get what we call inside the green zone, 10.5 feet? You get to the midpoint of the service box. And anything in front of that 10.5-foot marker is a green zone. So how many points were played in the men's final?
215.
Okay, so get out your calculator. Tell us what percentage 44 is 215.
Mm-hmm.
Prove to us they have schools in California. The clock is ticking.
Just double checking.
Double checking.
20.4.
20.4. Okay, so you just reduce that in half. That our boy Medvedev, the Roadrunner, the modern day David Ferrer, so he's at 10.2.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with the winning percentage for 24 majors. Novak Djokovic.
For net points?
Yeah, out of the 20% coming in, what did he win?
He won 37 points out of the 44 that he came in, which is 84%.
84%. That's a pretty good number.
Yep.
And boy, has he really improved his ability to volley. And he did hit some great stick volleys. That stick volley means to get hit by a stick. So Medvedev, what did he win coming in?
He got 16 of the 22 he came in, so 73%.
So all four players had a winning percentage, 70%, 63%, 84%, 73%. Do they know that? Are players managed by stats? Vic Braden, the person came to the net in April, they got passed, and they're not going to come in until next April. And how do they come to the net? Dick Gould, the great coach from Stanford. I don't care how you get there, but get there twice a game. There are different ways to get to the net. Hard court, when you're serving on a hard court and your opponent's at the net, not a good thing. When it's your serve, you should be the person who ends up going forward. You should end up being the person who is on offense. You start the point on offense. Let's go with unforced errors with the boys. Men's match.
We got 35 for Djokovic and 39 for Medvedev.
Okay, run that by us again.
Djokovic, 35. Medvedev, 39. Bless you.
Gesundheit. Once I was riding on a train in Germany, myself and one other passenger. He sneezed, and I said Gesundheit, and he said, "Where are you from in America?" I thought I said that word very well over the years, Gesundheit. With 35 and 39, then where were the errors made? How were the errors made? But with the top players in the world, obviously they make mistakes. Same thing, if you make a mistake, you don't correct it, you make a second mistake. Any thoughts on the stats? Just those matches?
Stats, yeah. The stats here, we have return stats, serve stats. Very interesting how they have fastest serve speed. Djokovic's fastest serve speed for the match was 126 for the first serve. For the second serve, Djokovic's second serve speed was 107. For Medvedev, 105 was the fastest for the first. 108 was the fastest for the second.
His fastest serve was, again, please?
So Medvedev's fastest first serve was 125.
125. Okay.
And then fastest second was 108. So very simple. Like the difference is 1 mile per hour in both of them.
I'll bet that's just on fastest, but the average.
I have average too. We got, for first serve, Djokovic's average first serve is 116. Djokovic's average second is 87. For Medvedev, average first is 118. average second is 94.
Yeah, so I just remember that number 82 coming up quite often when Djokovic was hitting the second serve, and I mentioned that if Medvedev was more challenging, I certainly would bet that Djokovic also serves better.
Yeah.
You know, he just figured out he's so far back, and I mean that one pattern hitting a slice serve wide in the deuce court and coming in, and he didn't really have to play a 3-shot combination when he served and volleyed. He played just a routine. I mean, just could tap the ball in because his opponent was so far back. And when he's so far back, Djokovic has the opportunity to get so far in. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the U.S. Open, what a celebration of tennis. And certainly many things to take away from it, but the champions of the singles with Novak Djokovic, flexibility, nutrition. It's just the fact that what he does to be the best he can be. I've said he's either stretching or thinking about stretching, and then with Coco Gauff, I think that should just be a wake up call, And I think we can be accused of beating up the commentators, but it certainly was shared about how athletic she is. I mean, the retrieving that she was doing from side to side.
Yeah, unbelievable.
She's lived her life to win. I know that her father said, that they worked so much on being an athlete when they're really young. And that's a lesson to itself. I think another lesson should be okay, we have to get kids playing multiple sports. With Sabalenka's one in the world, and say there's been a lot of written about how she improved her serve, which is great. But the high toss, she has that chain puller syndrome where she pulls down, the elbow goes up, goes down, goes back up a second time. I don't think that when she's playing an approach shot, she's looking to volley, and it's and I think with juniors, are you going to be that genetically gifted, that big, that strong, that fast, that powerful, and look for every possible advantage that you can have? With Goff doesn't have the height, but it'd be pretty interesting to think, not to take anything away from Sabalenka, but I've told many players that are short, and Coco Gauff is by no means short, but I can name some women that are short, great players: Rosie Casal, Billie Jean King, Zena Garrison. You just go on. I mean, Justine Henin, and so you have to go with their height plus their vertical jump. I remember coaching a young boy. I won't mention his name. He's 6'5", but he couldn't jump over a popsicle stick, so he was 6'5". He wasn't going to jump and be 6'6". He couldn't get that high. So, with what else on the U.S. Open?
U.S. Open, a lot of respect for, you mentioned I'm Russian. You had me pronounce Elena Rybakina. So I should be actually pronouncing the other Russian player's name correctly. It's actually Daniil Medvedev. He says it like that, just
Say it again.
Daniil Medvedev. Yeah, good luck. But people have adopted Medvedev. I think he has just same like most Russian players, like Shapovalov or Sharapova. People say, I don't know. Very very interesting. Listen to, as a Russian, it's a running joke in my family. It's amazing. American commentators, whenever there's a Russian player, they always, it's almost like it's on purpose, or I don't know what it's about. They always mispronounce the name. Like there hasn't been a Russian player where the American commentators said it correctly. It's amazing.
Smith, you get that right.
They can get that one right.
Well, we talked about having a light podcast, give people a break. We had that one for 4 hours. Let's just do this for a minute. But again, last round, anything on the USTA?
U.S. Open, you mean? Yeah.
US Open, yeah.
See, there's a cool stat here: distance covered, and then there's another stat: distance covered per point. Excuse me. So the Djokovic covered a distance of 18,000 feet and 17,000 feet from Medvedev, respectively. So you can do the math for if that hit a mile or not. It probably did. I don't know the conversion from feet to miles. But for distance covered per point, 84 feet. Yeah, it's amazing. People say serve +1, but they're hitting average rallies of 6. I think it was. So
Medvedev, again, we're giving some praise to Coco Gauff and for what she's done as an athlete, but really, and Djokovic, of course. But the other two, obviously the work. But Medvedev, junior tennis players chase every ball down. Why I say he's the modern day David Ferrer. They call David Ferrer the dog, Pero. And Jimmy Connors was great at that. Just run behind, get your body behind the ball. And we tell juniors, even when the ball's out, don't look with your eyes. Movement. Just moving your feet. And, on the technical side, there's a lot to be said about forehands and backhands. But if you went back to Mr. Hopman, I think, Maureen Conley, 1953, she wins the Grand Slam. What's she do? She hires Mr. Hopman. And, he used to have players, they have 2 sessions and they'd run 10 miles. They do that every time, but a lot of the time, whoever he thought worked the hardest, they do this in the Marines, is, if you're working really hard, you can leave the workout, you can go shower. Then the person they don't think is working that hard, they leave out there the longest. But Mr. Hopman would pick one player to go have a beer with him while everybody else went and ran 10 miles. It was like a piece of cake. Go run 10 miles, only take you an hour. Put an extra hour in. I have so many people visit in the course of a year as a supplemental coach. Coaches send me players, and these players who visit may have outstanding physical trainers, but it's like they should be fired. Just get the stopwatch out. And here in the U.S., most juniors, seriously, running a mile, they don't, tennis is an anaerobic sport. You don't have to do distance running. A mile is not a distance run. It's a mile. It's just amazing how little in American tennis overall that junior tennis players are running.
Yeah, I remember a stat a couple of majors ago. Djokovic won it, and it was how many miles throughout the whole championship did Djokovic run, and it was over a marathon, so over 26 miles in those 7 matches he ran.
Well, it's a marathon of sprints too.
Yeah.
He looked fatigued a little bit. Superman, Spider-Man, age 36. As a fan, I was hoping to see it go 5 sets, and Medvedev, let's win that second set tiebreaker. But anyway, we've talked about doing this. Let's just do this for a few minutes. My telephone, with just in the course of a day. Here's interesting. Not mentioning names, but a college coach, Division I, one of our players who's an 11 in the UTR, and college coaches Division I are looking for 13s. Maybe they have roster manager where they can only have 12 players, but to have someone who's on your team who's can break a 5-minute mile. The college coaches, are you good in the classroom? Obviously good on the court. Can you put points on the board for the team? But are you good in the locker room? Get a sense of humor and bring people together? But then, are you good in the gym? Are you good on the track? With here's a text from a coach that we've known for a long time, wants to bring a group for a boot camp. We don't call it a boot camp, but yeah, if you want to call it a boot camp, immersion camp. Here's another coach who sent us a picture of a young player who's won a local tournament. We stayed away from that on the website. I really think with social media for a young junior, winning the trophy is enough. Let me say that again. Winning the trophy is enough. I would recommend coaches do not put pictures of junior players on their website holding trophies. I do know that parents have said, well, okay, we're keeping a photo album. But then it's not just shared with the family. And just take a chill pill. The trophy is enough. Don't need to put that on a website. What does it lead to? Kids having a false understanding of their level, loss of perspective, choking, letting them think they're bigger and better than they are. A little humble pie, a little Uncle Tony, but it's just, unfortunately, it was a great experience in many ways, but I was on a college campus for 10 years and I went through AA with many of my students who became alcoholics. And my dad used to say this, we'd leave the house and make the family proud. But the one thing is to have pride, but don't be proud. And we go, well, what's that mean? Is don't be a peacock. You don't have to show your feathers. And a lot of times when coaches are doing that, they're showing their own feathers. It's like, okay, we have a winner, 12 and under tennis, 14 under tennis. I just don't think that's right. Here's another, visitors here. A father bringing a player who's 7 years old. Oh, we already have a player here today who's 5 years old. Because what people need to do is learn a lifestyle. Okay, it's really when the parent brings a player that young, the lesson is for the parent. This is what you need to do when you go home. This is how you need to set up your garage. Where are you going to put the mirrors? Where are you going to hang the string from the ceiling? I do think people listen to our podcast. Thank you for the support. Hanging a string from the ceiling, piece of tape comes down to your contact point. Okay, number one, you have mirrors up. Number two. Number three, you have a poster of the word pitch method. And number five, go on. You have a tripod, you have a camera, you have a practice log. And you are going to do that exercise. It just takes a couple minutes to work on your serve every day. If you just did it twice a day, like brushing your teeth. I do get a lot of video sent to me of young kids hitting the ball well, which is great. People out practicing. Here's one from a college coach. And it's unfortunate that a lot of players, when they get to be a junior in high school, now they want to play college tennis, but they haven't lived their life to play college tennis, and their UTR is very low. But I think, okay, could you go in and be a really good project player? Could you go in and not hold practice back? Could they give you that opportunity? Could you redshirt? Is there a way for you still to play college tennis even though you didn't pay your dues as a junior? And, and sometimes it's not that simple. They were poorly taught. Everybody has their own story. They're poorly taught, late start, bad start. But where there's a will, there's a way. And also, too, is that there's so many boys, especially, they're looking to play at a level that, right, it's not attainable at that point. Well, okay, maybe you could transfer. Also, too, is that if you're an 8.5 on the UTR and the college coach is talking to you, they have the common decency to be talking to you. Don't tell that college coach, well, I'd like to just be here for a year, then I would like to transfer. I think I'm going to bounce up to a 12. I guess I could mention some names. I already have, Austin Krajicek is playing Davis Cup. We should have him on again. His father should have on again. They've made their car a classroom. They had one of those portable backboards. They were swinging the sock. In the early ages, at age 7, he was fortunate that we met him. We made a video say, hey, don't watch this until you come back from the Little Mo. And you come back from the Little Mo, you got to change everything. Right next to that is Raven Klaassen. He was number 1 in South Africa. came to us and we said, you need to take 4 to 6 months off, and you're tweaking every shot you have. People say, oh, and that's overload. That's too much. No, it's not. If you make technical tapes and 3 times minimum, a player watches it, they take notes, they put the notes in logical sequential order, and they get in front of the mirror and they process. With here's an email to or a text sending to a parent. Let your son communicate with the coach. Don't you communicate to the coach. With anxiety, people coming to visit, the parents are the ones that have really the anxiety. I do think, okay, we're in a new setting, come check it out the first time, but then depending certainly on the age of the player and such, the circumstances, it's a case study, but let kids go on their own. Parents, give your kid roots, but also give them wings. And, there's some tough verbs, a lot of times parents don't know it, but they're suffocating their kid. Is let the kid do some things on their own. Trust your kids. It's nutrition. I'm worried about what they're going to eat. They're not going to die. They're going to find the refrigerator. They're not going to go hungry. Will they eat as well? They could. They could even eat better in some cases. But, that's one thing that the telephone can be used for some positive. Parent could send a child on the road. All I want you to do is send me a text on what you had to eat. That's it. You don't need to get on the phone. I tell parents all the time, I don't need to know where your child's going and who they're playing. People that get to the point where, in this country, there is a little chip on the shoulder, and we coaches say, well, the USTA cherry picked the player. You put in some hard yards and I go back to the 80s. The USTA started in player development in 87. You're working with a player, and next thing you know, someone in a higher position of authority shows up. Stan Smith, class act. Dave Anderson and I were working with Vince Spadia. He was a great player before we met him. He won the Orange Bowl. And next thing you know is Stan Smith, Wimbledon champion, US Open champion. He strolls up to the courts and is talking to Vince. And then shortly after that, we weren't really doing that much with him. It's amazing how many coaches have done things with the USTA over the years. Here's the one I mentioned name here with Joey Johnson. His son Spencer was on last week's podcast. I was honored that I was asked what was my opinion. I said, yeah, I would have him go on a 2-year mission, serve his church. I'm thinking maturity, grow up. And then with that, he played his first tournament. The check only had 3 figures. It was under $1,000, a little under $1,000 with, but I think we mentioned it, but Steve Campbell, the tennis director at Wintergreen, who went to Tennis Tech, our 2-year program where you could get a college degree, and then he worked for Vic Braden. So when it comes to tennis, we would say Steve gets it. And one thing he shared watching Spencer with some people here, goes, he hasn't really played in 2 years. Brain memory. With anniversary, that's something here is trying to have a 50th anniversary for Vic Braden. Had a meeting on that today. Should we call it an anniversary? Call it a reunion. Should it be done every year or every 2 years? Mike McLaughlin, what a class act. There's not that many. Many of us that actually work for Vic. Certainly, there's a lot of people that know Vic via his books and via his videos and such. And there's certainly other tennis teachers as well. Here's someone who mentioned the name John Roddick. Talking to him about one of our players, a player I've worked with. Then after the family came to me, this is going back almost 10 years. Now the kid's 18. And after they came to see me, they never went to a pro again. They just worked together as a family. They came to visit us several times, but they studied the content. You have to live the content. We tell people, okay, here's a book to read, watch these tapes. But it was fun to talk to John. I don't really know John that well, but I remember watching him play. He was like 11, 12 years old. And there's an older brother, Lawrence, I believe, who actually used our content when his son, I think it's JC Roddick, was very, very young. I did some work for the Roddick Tennis Academy, but Andy Roddick, what great juice. It was great to see him on stage at the US Open. What a great competitor. But if you saw John Roddick play, that's a great big brother. I remember seeing John Roddick in the US Open, and I thanked him for the opportunity to go to his academy. And he said, I coached against you. He said, you remember kids, Clayton Stanley, Chad Clark? I ran that by him today. And he said, yeah, those guys are really good tennis players. And I said, yeah, I asked you about him. And I said, remember I watched you when you were 11 or 12? He said, oh boy, victory or death. I mean, one story reminds me of another one with asking players, who's the best player you've ever practiced with? And then asking the kid who, spent a lot of time with one of my students, taught him how to play, and he said, Federer. I went, oh, okay. So you practice with Federer. There's text messages here on our broadcast. Keep going down this roll. There's text messages on certainly the match itself. Like say Medvedev, what a great player, such a great fighter. And you just have to look at his positives, the character. I always say listen to his YouTube clips, but when it's just Medvedev watching and listening to our broadcast, no options. With parents, what do they want for the kids, opportunities and options. With there's text message, there's notes that people have sent for videos that this is just going down, it's right in front of me. Make a video for a player, tell them watch it 3 times, send us notes, and it's really, really, really discouraging. I have a player who's here for the second time with his dad, and I said, my fault first, I don't know. And I said, your fault second, you don't know. We've been moving kind of upside down. Everybody knows what it's like to move. And said, did you send us notes? And he said, no. And it's like, it's your game, take ownership. To hear it is to forget it, to write it down is to remember to do it over and over again. With, here's something that quite a few coaches are interested. I'm up here in the mountains, and they want to work with players that I've coached. And I go, that's great, but why don't you coach beginners? Instead of, I'd like to take these players to tournaments, and or Dave Anderson said on a podcast, the dirty work is teach beginners. I spent a lot of time today working with a 5-year-old, and Dad's brought him here, and okay, Dad's listening to our podcast, and you don't want to go down the road, age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and find out that you've been whacking tennis balls 5 years with a palm up serve, Western grip where the butt of the racket's almost hitting your earlobe. And, that's so difficult when kids don't get a really good start. Just so many different things. I just think maybe we go to more detail, but the interactions we have with people from our network, coaches that we've worked with for decades, it's just very interesting. Why don't you make some comments off that, and we can say goodnight. What do you got? Off my telephone. Any thoughts?
Comments off your telephone,
Hey.
match, anything? One thing I wanted to mention, just a story that I remember that really from both of the men's players, Djokovic, classic ending speech. He always has a message to give to younger players. He always talks about his upbringing, how the less you have, the more you have. And with Medvedev, again, if I'm wrong on this, please correct me. But when he started becoming a pro, he had major lower back injuries or problems, and he didn't make it very far up the ladder. Well, relatively, he made it some, but he couldn't progress. And at some point, he was trying everything. I mean, he spent all this money trying to figure out what's going on with his back, and he found either this doctor found him, or he found this doctor after just searching for endlessly and through people that told him, sorry, you can't do anything about it. And this doctor helped him, made special machines that would help target these certain muscles that were weak in his back genetically, I believe. Again, I could be wrong, but this is what I remember. And he just proved everybody wrong. Like, everybody in the interview, he said, everybody told me I would never make it to what I wanted to make it to. And he just, through grit, and you can see it when he plays in his eyes, how much of a competitor he is, because he went through all that, and he stayed the course, and he knew he was going to be great, and so he kept pushing. And I mean, just warriors, these guys, amazing.
With Medvedev, and again, hats off to Medvedev, but you listen to his YouTube clips. He uses the word awful. My volleys are awful, but they're getting better. They're better than they used to be. At least I'm trying to volley. So, I mean, it's just a lesson to listen to the guy. One thing back to fundraising, we need to do a way better, can I speak English? We need to do a better job. So this is at the end of the day. We do these at the end of the day. With Power Nap, didn't happen today. It doesn't happen most days. With sharing more content. We have some film from the summer just a few weeks ago. I guess we're into fall now. It'd be fun to organize it and send it to Christina Dell, who's here, to send it to her father, to send it to Charlie Passerelle. Charlie's not on my phone. And Charlie Passerelle, I think people know him as a builder. He built Indian Wells along with Ray Moore, and Indian Wells is Indian Wells. He sold it to Larry Ellison, but he was taught by Welby Van Horn on 4 courts at San Juan, Puerto Rico. Welby would say, I was so fortunate to teach him first because he became the best player in America, #1 American at one point. And but we have the body balance position. We do it with the hands on the hips, and then the hands out in front, and then do it with checkpoints with the racket. And that's really, so many things to say about the GreatBase. Some would tell me otherwise, and again, the world's a big place, but I don't know of anyone who taught beginners better than Welby Van Horn. And he was a world-class tennis player. Built backboards. You had to hit the backboard 30 minutes before his lesson. He could see you on the backboard. After the lesson, you would stand in front of his pro shop window. Wasn't fair for girls back then. Taught mostly boys. But then if you weren't shadow swinging, weren't doing it the right way, he'd look over and he'd whack a ball at you. Hell, you can't do that anymore. But that's what we need to do is show more content. If people want to dig through our content, they're going to find Welby Van Horn balance system, but we could do it better. It's okay. You don't have to search through Tennis Intelligence Applied, which is a 25-hour course. Someone said you got to listen to your critics. You got to become your own best critic. But our content is like drinking water from a fire hose. Or you go to the biggest buffet in the world and go, where do I turn? And one phone call I saw, it was a gentleman who wants to make the game like us. He wants to make tennis more accessible and less expensive. And he's going to try to do that through club teams on college campuses. And that's been done to a certain level. The PTR, it's like, are there any new ideas under the sun? But when people go forward and they have these ideas, it's like, okay, if we just had, 10 chapters, and I'll get a piece of paper, we'll write these down and we get to sign off. Now, like the gentleman with fuzzy yellow balls, last name is Hamilton. Now, he puts out a booklet, and all you got to do is go to chapter 1 and you just scan it and you can look at a short video. So the technology to communicate, but one would be the court. You have to teach the realities of the court. You need to know 19.1, 19.6, 24.2. You need to know. I tell people I can't really have a conversation with a high level if you don't know these numbers. The rules don't allow you to reach over net, but you have 180 degrees, 3 feet from the net, 130. How many steps it is to the net? You take 78 divided by 2 is 39, 3 feet per step, 13 steps to the net. So the court is one thing, not in any order, but then the racket. Okay, the language, the parts of the racket face, throw to the racket, the butt of the racket. Obviously, there's the grip. You could go with some more terminology: racket face open, racket face closed. Enter the student's world. The next one would be grips. On our podcast, Richard Hernandez, what's one thing that needs to happen to improve tennis? People need to know the grips. The grips, all the ramifications that goes with the grips. And, some kid, again, Coco Gauff, we could speculate and say, well, Alcaraz, who didn't play very well in the semifinals, but he's 20 years old, he's in the semifinals. He's a gift from God. But, he's missing wide on the forehand side. Live by the sword, die by the sword. But, tennis players from yesteryear would look at it and go, you need to force, kid. You don't need to give away the net. You need to pressure people, and he can volley. So we got court, racket, grips, and then body balance. Body balance position. Then next thing, we're just chapter 5, we're at checkpoints. Okay, the shape of the swing. What's not taught anymore? The ready position. You go to a tournament, most kids don't have the ready position. So, look at Djokovic. The racket's centered. It's in a neutral position. Do people teach a unit turn now? Do they teach, talk about the backswing, talk about the contact, talk about follow through? That language is almost gone. It's just, then so you're halfway through. Say, that's quite a bit. But then when it comes down to training, just practice is a chapter. Solo practice. What drills can you do on your own? Static balance, dynamic balance. What do you do standing still in front of a mirror? What do you do in your driveway? People don't practice in their driveway. They don't pick their racket up. They put it in that big fancy shoulder bag. That's it. You tell people, here are the routines you do. They don't do them. It's like, no. Parents, boy, it'd be great to get a flip phone. The kids are 4 or 5 hours of time on the phone. They're like walking around with a TV. I can remember my father saying, you don't need to be watching that TV. Turn that idiot box off. That's what it was called. That term's gone away. That's what the telephone is. It's an idiot box. People are just killing brain cells. It's like, you want to be a tennis player. That's the enemy. The telephone's the enemy. But you can go on and on with practice. With 7, 8, 9, 10, you think of practice, you just say, we are going to have a form tournament. We're going to have a form tournament. Who has the best looking form? Efficient strokes are aesthetically appealing. With the next is have a target tournament. when we make a tournament, when we start doing a drill to the quadrants, what we call the tiebreaker test, and we do it with everybody in the group, they get so excited. But to do that on your own, put the ropes out, hit over, the 10 under line, which is, you got 18 feet from the service line to the baseline. Hit over that 9-foot barrier. Chapter 9 and 10. Again, this is just random, but really with number 9 is fitness and more fitness. Just fitness and more fitness. Start your day. A lot of boys especially, they like to be in the gym. It's not so painful to lift weights, but it's painful to run. So many kids they'd be wise to run cross country. So fitness, and just tons of fitness. We do the animal kingdom. Okay, on the baseline, the Harry Hopman, the kangaroos, but bear walk to the net, bear walk backwards to the net. Go to YouTube and look up animal kingdom exercises. With that, we do the caterpillar, the inchworm. You just know right there, kid, you got no core. We do the frog jump. And, you just look around and go, I'm not really very explosive. You kill an athlete by how much they jump. And then very quickly, I can read these and we'll sign off. Rinse and repeat. Okay, doing dishes. Most kids, I don't know if they've ever even done dishes. I can tell stories about kids putting their hand in the sink. They're 15 years old. They're putting their hand in the sink. You just know they've never done any chores. Mom and dad, sorry, first 15 years, you blew it. They put your kids to work. They need to help out. But rinse and repeat is character. Is that, you got to do the same thing over and over again. Tom Brady, embrace the boredom, all the mind vitamins. So I'll read these off, and then you can close this smorgasbord podcast. We've talked a little about fundraising. We talked about our broadcast. We've talked a little bit about stats, a little bit about this and that with US Open. We went through my phone, which is just random. But I do think, okay, this is what's happening. We're connected with people that are, doing A-okay in tennis. They're after it. But anyway, this right here, 10 chapters, the court. What do kids get as far as a grade? What do they know about the court? A is excellent. F is not. In our world, it's either an A or an F. Either you know or you don't know. Either you know something about the tennis court or you don't. Sorry. Well, I know a little bit. And they don't. They've been playing tennis their whole life. It's like the line from Moneyball. It's amazing. You can play a sport for your whole life and know so little about it. The racket is probably the easiest one. Okay? This is the racket face. When you talk to a beginner, okay, they don't know the terminology, but that's a chapter I think that almost everybody gets an A on. But on the other hand, when they're playing, they don't know whether the racket face is open or closed. And then also with the racket, they don't know why the racket face should be open or closed. With grips, a grip of a lifetime. You're 18 years old, kid. Well, you're an 8.5 on the UTR. You're 16 years old. You're a 8.5 on the UTR. Whatever. You're young. Double your life. Go for it. Here's the science. Here's the logic. Nothing to compromise. Nothing to negotiate. Your level's too low. Just shut up and do it. I love Nike for the slogan. Just do it. There shouldn't be any other slogans. Just do it. There's some great T-shirts. I wouldn't mind being in the T-shirt business coming up with slogans.
You see my shirt here? You know what company this is?
No.
Hydrogen. And you know what their logo is? Or their motto? No. Do it better.
There you go.
I always thought it was funny. Clever marketing.
Just do it better, do it more. Body balance. Most kids hit balls, they're off balance. Their toss is way out of whack. They're falling over. That's what I love about Medvedev. I mean, from a technical standpoint, he's almost fallen over, but he's making shots. That guy is determined. That guy has desire. Checkpoints. That really gets into the nuts and bolts. Practice, three secrets of tennis: practice, practice, practice. And you got to be a practice animal. You have to love practice. You have to be. You have to understand. If you don't love practice, you're not going to be very good. Period. It's all about practice. Forum tournament. With the forum tournament, I didn't write it down here, but you're teaching. When you're teaching technique, you're teaching tactics. When you're teaching people, okay, this is an approach shot. You approach the net so you can play a volley. And, it is true that you have to show people. Vandermeer is very good at that. Let me show you what it looks like before we break it down in progressions, before I break it down into small, learnable pieces. Let me show you the whole picture first. A target tournament. Can you hit the target? Vandermeer. Yeah, you need three people. You need the feeder, two players, put a cone down. I'm going to feed you 10 forehands. And the other person gets 10 balls, and they mark down where the 10 shots land. I mean, with tennis, scariest thing is you're being compared to the person on the other side of the net. And it's just a tragedy, not a comedy of unforced errors. But it's okay. It's competitive. Someone's going to win. But the unforced errors are, 80% plus. It's I'm talking grassroots level tennis. Maybe this should have been first. Fitness. And with fitness, that means other sports. I didn't know that when I started playing tennis, but having played ice hockey, it's like Djokovic grew up at the bottom of the scale. You got to guess, well, the kid probably could ski a little bit. Federer's from Switzerland. Yeah, he probably could ski a little bit. You could look up Yannick Sinner. He definitely could ski a little bit. National champion. But playing other sports, can you catch and can you throw? You've seen me do some things in the time you've been here. The Billie Jean King shortstop drill. I just take balls and just take the racket and hit a groundie. They put them on one side of the court and they got to run to the other corner. They just got to catch it. Then could they catch it and then turn and be in that third base position? I mean, I played baseball, but Mark Hamill, kid I grew up with, says, yeah, but we never practiced batting. And the only reason I thought I could catch a baseball because I played all this street hockey, and when you're a forward or a defenseman, you play street hockey, you always want to be the goalie, and the goalie always wants to be forward. So you're in there, and people are just blasting tennis balls at you, and you develop some hand-eye. Like where does that come from? The book Range, the generalist is better than the specialist. Coco Gauff, thank you. Wake up, America, become an athlete. But rinse and repeat. I mean, I tell stories about kids picking weeds. I could write a book on parents. I've learned so much from parents, how to do it and how not to do it. For every player I've met, fortunately, I've pretty much met two parents. And I know one mom, her kids would complain they had to go outside and take one of those little grocery bags and fill it up with, they'd have to pull weeds. I just heard you complain. Here's the bag, outside. Of course, in certain parts of the year, you can't do that. You got to come up with another solution. But in a place like Florida, you can go pick weeds year round. But rinse and repeat. You got to do it over and over and over again. All right, your time to sign us off here.
Two things I wrote down was mental emotional side. That could be a chapter. Of course, that's many things are connected. Stuff with how dedicated you are to the fitness, nutrition side, things like that, where you can develop your mindset. But that's one thing. Another thing is a line you said, which is either you know or you don't, A or F. And it reminds me of my degree. First thing I thought of at UCSD, computer science, where you're taking some classes where it's like you can't make something up and get an answer. It's kind of like they ask you a question, it's you know it or you don't. It's like it's either it's worth half the grade, and you have to do 3 pages of calculations and get an answer. And if you don't know it, you can't even start, and it's a horrible feeling.
Give me the letters for your school again.
UCSD, University of California, San Diego.
UCSD. I'm going to come up with a better acronym for that. I knew I should say I know. I've looked it up before. I once heard a comedian had an acronym for every state. I mean, Massachusetts, Mississippi. It was pretty impressive. Only one I remember was Iowa. Idiots out wandering around. UCSD. But I think also too with mentally emotional is I think there's too much sitting around, too much concentration. I think a lot of pros, okay, let's meet, let's sit down. The parents, let's sit down with fitness, mental toughness, emotional toughness. It's like when you train people for, what they do with soldiers is, we're going to sit around and talk about it. They're going to put them through hell and back. And when great players, great athletes get together, they don't talk about the championship. They talk about how hard they worked. But I think the mental, emotional, certainly you can add that to the list. But, you need a checkup from the neck up. Roger Crawford, you need to be mentally fit. One, you have this opportunity to play this game, appreciation, Peter Burwash. You come in the world with nothing, you leave with nothing, you appreciate everything in between. So attitude and effort through fitness, you're going to find out what kind of attitude they have. You're going to find out what type of effort. Fitness, one of the best places to start with fitness is ball pickup. We're picking the balls up this way right now. It's 1-1. And it's not 3-3, but you're running backwards. You're doing lunges. We had a contest the other day, 4 players picking up balls, and I had a coach helping me, a gal from South Africa, said, okay, we're charting. She's right there with the tally system. One player tanked, just totally tanked. And it's like, no, this is spirited. Who's gonna pick up the most balls? And the really competitive people, I mean, they just have the juice. They compete at everything. But anyway, some leftovers. Hopefully people got something out of this podcast. I'm actually a little bit bewildered sometimes when people say, I really like those podcasts. I go, really? You got to be kidding me. All right, your turn. What are you going to write on the bathroom wall? We'll end this thing. What do you got?
The US Open is still on my mind. The less you have, the more you have. With that phrase from Djokovic that he says usually after he wins a major. I love that phrase. It's amazing.
That's biblical. Everybody, Don Meyer. We had a podcast on Don Meyer, the late Don Meyer. You could YouTube Don Meyer, basketball coach, biblical teaching. Leave the locker room cleaner than you found it. Jim Verdict. Don't you want to get 1% better in society? It's not pointing the finger at parents today. It's society. Things have changed. We had the podcast with Steve Robertson on Gen Z. I could remember just going in the house, youngest of 6. So the youngest is asked to do a lot of things. Like I had no one to handle mowing the lawn down to. No little brother to take over the job with. But now it's unheard of. It's, I grew up, I would say privileged. There was not a silver spoon of it. I would come in the house and just hope that my mother would say, Stevie, why don't you go outside, take the clothes off the line? But then it's like, but before you go, take the clothes that are in the washer and hang them up. It just goes, and then if you would fold them, I just wanted in and out. And, so you really can't blame kids today with things that have gone away, but they have gone away with, and then, I think about people that came before me. I mean, I'm heading towards 70 and it's just the easier you have it, the worse you have it. And, I think of Raven Klassen covering the United States. And one of my sons said to me one time, he said, every family has 3 cars. I'm just shaking my head. And Raven Klassen, he was just blown away. And he came to live with us when he was 18 years old. He couldn't believe how many kids turned 16 and they were driving their own car. He was just, and I remember he loved cars. There was a place that was right by where we lived on Friday night where you could go and look at these, such and such cars. And but people just take it for granted. I can go back and go, yeah, I was a perennial tennis bum in Boca Raton, Florida, back in the 70s. I used to take a bus up to Delray, take lessons from Ed Foster. And I used to tell people, yeah, well, the only person in Boca rides a bus, city buses. And this, and I think that's where the Americans were so privileged to be here in this country, but, kids from other places, again, you've said it. If you have less, you have more. Okay, Ivan, thank you. Listeners, thank you.
Thank you.
Podcast 161. It's in the books. Good night. Adios, amigos.